Happy Sunday, Bears fans. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Hopefully, everybody is having a fantastic weekend, and hopefully, everybody is getting ready for a couple of more good football games. We got the Rams and the Eagles coming up here in just a little bit, followed by Bills, Ravens. Hopefully, that game lives up to the billing. I'm definitely excited about that one. But what we're talking about here today is the Bears coaching search. Things expected to heat up in the NFL coaching carousel with the Lions out of the playoffs. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, two top candidates for a lot of these jobs that are still open. So we're going to dive into that today, especially when it comes to Ben Johnson, the latest, what we know, what we don't, and try to figure out where this thing goes from here. But listen, we're trying to get to 114,000 subscribers. We're less than 400 away. Can we get there? Can we get there tomorrow? That's a lot to ask. But if you want daily updates on the Bears coaching search, the latest news, rumors, updates, we'll have some free agency and draft coverage soon. I have a mock draft cooked up, but there's just been so much other coaching search stuff. Haven't even been able to film it yet, but going to get that out to you guys very, very soon. We got you covered. Rock and roll with us here on Chicago Bears Now. Well, the first step to being able to hire a head coach is to satisfy the Rooney Rule. The Bears had interviewed Ron Rivera in person already, and now they brought in Eddie George, former NFL running back and current Tennessee State head coach, where he's actually done pretty well, for an in-person interview this morning. Jay Glazer had this report last night. Now, as of filming this, that interview has not been completed, but I would imagine it either has been or will be shortly. The Bears just haven't announced it. Look, I don't want to downplay Eddie George as a future NFL coach, but this feels pretty standard. Like, hey, let's get the Rooney Rule complied for, and then we can hire a coach when we're ready. That's kind of what this feels like, if we're being completely honest about the situation. I don't like it any more than you do, but that's just the reality of how this thing works. And then now it makes you shift gears into the Ben Johnson sweepstakes. With Detroit out of the playoffs, Johnson can get his in-person interviews going this week. He can agree to terms to become a team's head coach. And obviously, the Johnson sweepstakes are going to be something to watch for. They're going to be something to keep an eye on here, as many believe he is the top candidate left in this cycle. It was between him and Mike Vrabel coming in to this whole process. Obviously, the Patriots fast-tracked Vrabel, brought him back to where he played, and now all attention shifts to Ben Johnson. I expect him to take a job this week. Now, Adam Schefter, I believe on Sunday Countdown a little bit ago, said that all three of the Bears, Raiders, and Jaguars are firmly in the mix to land Johnson. He expects him to do in-person interviews with all three. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Obviously, there's been a lot of buzz around the Raiders over the last week or so, as Tom Brady, who called the game last night for the Lions, has been making a push to get Ben Johnson. Are they the favorites to land him? Well, today they're bringing in Lance Newmark, the former Lions executive and current Commanders assistant GM, for an interview to be the next Raiders GM. And many believe that A, this is Johnson's guy, and B, that he prefers alignment. Albert Breer mentioned it again, that he wants alignment with himself, the organization, and a general manager. That can't really happen in Chicago with Ryan Poles still here. That can't happen in Jacksonville with Trent Baalke. So if that matters most, that is something the Raiders can offer. That is the one thing they can offer that the Bears cannot, or can't. The Bears can offer a young, talented quarterback, where the Raiders don't really have that and don't have a clear path to getting one. They can offer a better roster. They can offer a lot of things that the Raiders cannot, but the one thing they cannot offer is the idea of helping handpick your own GM and being aligned with that person. And with the Bears keeping Ryan Poles, that is just the reality of that situation. Now, should the Bears, give in to all of Johnson's demands? I'm not necessarily saying that, but we know that he's been selective. We know that his agents and representatives have been pretty aggressive since he's been a hot coaching candidate for the past couple of years. So we just got to wait and see how this thing plays out when it comes to the Ben Johnson sweepstakes. I think if you get an interview with him in person, which it sounds like they are, you still have a good chance to get him. But, if all things are equal in his mind, which I don't think they are, me looking at it, I think the Bears are a better opportunity, but he might say, you know what? I am going to go to the Raiders because I can pick my GM. I can have more roster control. I may go in that direction. They may offer me just a crazy amount of money. So we'll have to wait and see. And it does get me to this thought and this question of like, does Chicago want Johnson? I think they like Ben Johnson. I think they're very open to him being their head coach. I don't get the sense that they're guns blazing for Ben Johnson and everybody else is secondary. You know, I think most of Bears fans, Ben Johnson's their top guy, and then there's the next tier of candidates. Now, he's my top guy. I the last week or two, I have kind of changed my tune a little bit in the sense of like, if you get a Todd Monken, if you get a Mike McCarthy, I don't think those are bad outcomes whatsoever. Would I want Ben Johnson as my top guy? Probably, but first-time head coach, there is a question there. That's also true with Monken, at least in the NFL level, but he's done the job before. He's a little bit older. He has a lot of experience. And obviously, Mike McCarthy, even if you think the ceiling is a little lower, the floor is very high. He's done the job in two different places for almost 2 decades with a high level of success. So we'll talk about McCarthy a little bit more in a minute, but I just do get the sense that like the Raiders, they're completely all in on Ben Johnson. If he would take their job today, he'd be their coach. The Bears, I think they really like Ben. I think they like the idea of hiring him, but I get the sense that they want to go through multiple second interviews. They want to bring McCarthy back in. They want to talk potentially to Todd Monken again and Ben Johnson and maybe even a Brian Flores. So we'll see where this goes. It's hard to be super confident one way or the other because the Bears have struggled so much to get this right that it makes you even wonder, like, if they get Ben Johnson, will it even work? Who knows? I think that's all fair play and fair to question at this point in time. I think I'm just at the point where, like, we just got to wait and see how this plays out. We got to wait and see what happens. It feels like Ben Johnson's the next domino to go unless it's Aaron Glenn going to the Jets, but we'll have to wait and see. For you guys, is Ben Johnson still your top guy? Is he still the, hey, I don't care what happens, last night has no impact on me, he's the guy I want? Yes or no? Let me know in the comment section below. He's still my top guy, but I'm not going to completely just throw a fit if he doesn't end up being the Bears head coach. I mean, if they offer him the job and he decides to go to the Raiders, it's like, well, good luck, I guess. I mean, I just don't think the Raiders are that good of a situation, even if he does get to handpick his GM. Now, I still think it's probably a mistake that you're going to keep Ryan Poles on a 1-year contract, regardless of who the coach is, but we'll see. I like the idea of Ben working with Caleb, but I don't think he's like the only good coach in this cycle, but it'd be fun. It would definitely be fun. I definitely still think the Bears are in the mix. What about Kliff Kingsbury? I do just want to kind of talk about Kliff here because his stock obviously continues to rise. And actually, hold that thought for 1 second. We'll talk about Kliff here in just a moment, but I do have to get in a word from our sponsor, Game Time. Do you want to go to a conference championship game next week? Do you want to go to the national championship on Monday night? Blackhawks game, a Bulls game? You got the White Sox and Cubs just around the corner. You want to get to one of these events, comedy show, concert, whatever the case may be, get your tickets with Game Time. Bears Now is sponsored by Game Time, where they specialize in last-minute tickets for the lowest prices guaranteed. But a lot of cool features when you purchase your tickets through Game Time, because you can use their feature called Game Time Picks, which will show you, basically filter out the fluff of thousands of tickets, show you different price points within a certain venue for a certain event, and you can just pick your tickets based on your budget a lot quicker. It's a lot easier of a process. Not going to take you hours, going to take you just a few minutes. Say, okay, boom, that's in my price range. I like those seats. Get to checkout, and you are good to go. You can also toggle on all-in pricing. That way you're not surprised at checkout by any prices that you may be hit with certain fees. Just toggle on all-in pricing. That way there's no surprises. Game Time is awesome. I've used Game Time on numerous occasions for concerts and for sporting events and for a couple comedy shows. Be sure to get your tickets with Game Time today. So what I need you to do is to download the Game Time app, use promo code ChatSports to get $20 off your first purchase only. That is code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase only. Terms apply. What time is it? It's Game Time. Check out Game Time today. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about Kliff Kingsbury now. As, listen, his stock has just continued to rise. And, you know, about week 13, 14, I was like, Jaden, this Washington offense, it's Kliff feels like he's cliffing again. They've gotten a little stale. And after a couple down weeks, they just started flying again. And they hit another gear. And what he's done with Jaden Daniels, who's been unbelievable, arguably the best rookie quarterback we've ever seen, getting to the conference championship game. And no, I'm not going to spark a Jaden Caleb debate. That's not what I'm trying to do. But the work Kliff and this staff has done with him is really impressive. And the tricky thing with Kliff, because I would be interested in interviewing him at this point, is he's not doing any interviews until the Commanders are out. That is what he has said. So, and he's kind of hinted at the possibility that he said himself, it would take a lot for me to leave this situation. He loves working for Dan Quinn. He loves coaching Jaden Daniels. And so, is he worth waiting for? Because Ben Johnson's one thing to wait it out, which now you don't have to, but had they won last night, wait it out. You've already interviewed him. You're probably going to get another in-person interview. He might not pick you, but that's a different situation. You could wait out Kliff and still not get an interview. He could say, yeah, I'm staying in Washington. That feels pretty risky. That feels pretty darn risky for the Chicago Bears, for a guy who I do think has rebuilt his image and stock a good amount, but doesn't even know himself if he's ready to be a head coach again, at least right now. So I like Kliff. He's impressed me a lot. But what if they go to the Super Bowl? And what if you have to wait until after the Super Bowl and then he says, yeah, I'm not leaving, or I don't want to be a head coach right now, or I just don't want your job? Well, then you're kind of stuck. Now, you would think that after the NFC Championship game, win or lose, you could at least get some indication if he's willing to do an interview. But are you willing to do that? Because this coaching search league-wide is going to heat up this week. So if you like Ben Johnson, if you like Aaron Glenn, if you like Mike McCarthy, whoever the case may be, and you don't want to risk losing any of those guys, I don't know if Kliff is worth waiting for those reasons, because he did fail for at least somewhat the first time as a head coach. I think he'd be better this time. He's talked about things he would do differently, but no guarantee. No guarantee. And that leaves us with Mike McCarthy. So the latest reports, rumors, is that he's supposed to interview with the Saints on Tuesday. Will that change? And the reason I wonder if that will change, with the Bears being Rooney Rule compliant now, do the Bears, especially if they don't think they're going to get Ben Johnson, or maybe they just like him more than Ben Johnson, do they just prioritize Mike McCarthy and try to bring him in person again on Monday and say, hey, we're not letting you leave the building. We want you to be our guy. Now, if what Schefter's reporting is true, that he expects Ben Johnson to do in-person interviews with Chicago, Jacksonville, and Vegas, well, you need to do that interview if you're the Bears. He's still my top guy. I would imagine he's high on the Bears list. I still think you need to go through that process. I think with Detroit losing, it helps you a little bit, because I would be shocked if McCarthy interviewed with the Saints on Tuesday and literally just right then and there didn't leave the building and accepted being their head coach. That seems unlikely. And also, I don't think the Saints are Rooney Rule compliant yet. I'd have to go double check. So I don't even think that's the case yet. And they're very interested in Aaron Glenn. So I think they want to see that situation out too. So I think with the Lions losing, you kind of buy yourself some time a little bit, because you don't have to wait all the way until next week to get a Ben Johnson interview in person. I would imagine it plays out like this. The finalists are Ben Johnson and Mike McCarthy for sure. TBD Todd Monken, if the Ravens lose tonight, obviously that ramps up his process. If they win, do you wait another week for him? If you really liked him in the first interview, I think you need to. You gotta, if you really like someone, you need to wait. That's just what it comes down to. But it's threading that needle. It all comes down. It's kind of like when you're putting together a draft big board. How close are these guys together when you're trying to figure out who your next head coach is? And the Bears, they got to figure that out. And should we trust them as fans and the public? Probably not. They got to prove it to us, to be honest. But I do understand the timelines and the difficulty of how long do we wait? Do we push forward with this person? I'm not acting like it's easy, but that's the job. And that's up to Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren to get that thing out. So bottom line is, I expect this thing to heat up this week. I think it's going to be very interesting the next 3, 4, 5 days as we get through here. Obviously, get through these games today. Tomorrow, I think, could still be somewhat slow. MLK Day, inauguration, federal holiday, all that stuff. I don't think any team will hire a coach until at least Tuesday, but Tuesday and beyond, this thing's really going to ramp up, and you're going to hear rumors, updates, scheduled second interviews, all that stuff over the next day or two, and we are going to be here to cover all of it. So be sure to subscribe. Let's get to 114,000 subscribers. We greatly appreciate it. My name is Harrison Graham. We will see you guys soon. Bear down.